for joining us. And we are here to discuss something very important for us as people working in the industry, both in the luxury industry and the media industry. Our session today is about print versus online. And we're asking the question of, can digital media replace print? Now, this topic has been debated over and over again at almost every media conference, such as the Arab Media Forum, Abu Dhabi Media Summit, etc. So we want to give a bit of insight about we want to give a bit of insight about the kind of latest developments in this puzzling question. But also we want to shift the conversation a bit more towards building a brand digitally and versus building a brand via print. And we're going to do just that with the fantastic panel that we have with us today. I'm going to start with Nour, ladies first. Nour Almasri is the Digital Media Director at SRPC Sayidaty Group. And I must say, Sayidaty is known to be a massive print operation. So we're very interested to know a bit more about what Sayidaty is doing in terms of digital. Right next to Nour, we have Robert. Robert is the founder and creative director at Rob&Co. And he was an expert as well. He is an expert on marketing luxury brands. He worked with Gucci in Scandinavia, as well as in the region, and which makes perfect sense because we are in a luxury forum. We have Khaled. Khaled Zaatarah is the brand operation leader at P&G Prestige, who's going to give us a lot of insight about building, world-class brands through digital, whether or not it's possible. And last, certainly not least, right next to me, I'm delighted to have Bequin, who is the managing director at OMDSI, and who will be able to give us some insight into what agencies and MBUs are thinking. Robert, let us start with you. Okay, I must say, we've had a pre-panel discussion with everybody, and the panel voted unanimously to have Robert represent them because we've managed to achieve something very difficult in the Arab world, which is everybody's agreeing on something. And everybody's agreeing that print is not going to die.
Yes.
Now, Robert, why don't you tell us why do you think print is not going to die when we're seeing newspaper closing down every day around the world?
I think, this rightly said, we had the discussion, we actually all agreed, we're on the same page, so we could actually close the session and all go for lunch. What's important is that, and it's a discussion that's been had before, a long time before. I use it in case studies. I also lecture in Sweden on the subject matter. You know, it was the introduction of the CD, and everyone said when the CD was going to come out, the LP was going to die. You know, no need for LPs, no need for cassettes. However, there's an irony right now that when you play an LP record, there's a certain experience, there's a certain nostalgic feeling. It's almost luxurious to play an LP now, and it's almost a luxury item to have in your home setup. So I think it's more a matter that media is here, print is definitely here, but it needs to find itself. We talked before about needing to reinvent itself and really find its niche, to say. I think one will not take from the other.
But I mean, let me take this question to Nour. If it's not broken, why fix it? If we're saying that print is working fine, and Sayidaty is a classic example about a magazine that does wonders. I'm quite familiar with the figures they produce in terms of advertising revenue, and it's quite a lot. So, Nour, why even bother going online? And you're heading a whole online operation at Sayidaty, trying to diversify the kind of product. Are you even close to achieving what you do in terms of traditional advertising print revenues?
There is no reason why we shouldn't go online. Now, this discussion, we had it since we joined. Since I joined the company, Sayidaty has been there already. And since the past 3 years, there was no single reason why we shouldn't establish any strength online. Because as Sayidaty, as a print, being, the history of Sayidaty, because it's a very big brand, it's a brand that has a lot of reach. That helped on our online reach a lot. And if I understood your question right, online has helped the magazine to grow even more when it comes to reach. Now, I'm not saying that the magazine advertising revenue is keeping growing. Of course, we're following the trend. But the percentage of the percentage of our revenue decrease could have been more if we didn't integrate our efforts online and with the magazine.
I see. But let me take this to Khaled now. Khaled, can Gucci or Prada or any of your brands that are used to taking a double-page spread in the magazine, of a glossy luxury magazine, the back cover, it's just not the same feeling when you take a banner on a website. You cannot really touch the banner. It's not glossy. You can barely see it. Sometimes on your phone, you don't even notice that it exists. Have you had any success in building brands digitally, exclusively?
I think the most important thing is to have the right balance. And this is the most important thing nowadays. And one of the most important things any brand should focus on is the story and the content. So if you can drive the story in any medium and reaches the consumer's hearts, then you win. That's the most important thing. So be it's print or digital or out of home or TV. The most important thing is driving the story. And on top of that is you need to innovate. You need to always keep the consumers at the heart of everything you do. Third, you need to always keep on update with the technology. And you said earlier that print might not die, but I would say it would die if you don't innovate, you don't listen to the consumers, you don't see how they're changing, how they're adapting, and having content to that to give to them that fulfills their need, what they want to see, what they want to listen to, what they want to see. That's the most important thing that they should think about. And yesterday I was thinking about the topic as well. I wouldn't see people at the beach or at the pool with a mobile phone looking at a magazine. That we're used to have a magazine and read it on the pool. It blocks the sun away from your face. On a mobile phone, you cannot see the screen anymore. You cannot see that. So you'll still have a very niche people that are used to have print magazines to read from there. But the most important thing is to have the right story and the perfect content to reach.
Very good. Now, let's bring in the language of numbers. Eric, you're a man of numbers. What do the numbers say?
Well, let me just add on what the team has said. I think one of the key objectives for all of you, publishers and brands, as well as us from the media industry, is relevance. And you touched upon it. Relevance is key. So print will survive if it stays relevant. Digital will continue to grow if it stays relevant. And as well as consumers will dictate some of the trends that we will have to adapt to and make relevant to them. So that, as in my point of view, are the three factors that are driving that. On top of that is we are probably one of the regions with the youngest populations. I think it's approximately the generation Z, as you call them, is probably 35 to 40% of our region. And if Iran's open, it's going to even be bigger. So in my point of view, there's huge opportunities for the brands to take on the digital challenge, but at the same time be careful to make sure that they are relevant across all media touchpoints. Now, if we take some of the numbers just for you to get an idea, if we look at the GCC, internet penetration is like 65%, more or less, so it's pretty high. If we compare to North America, we're at 87%. If we compare to Europe, we're at 70%. So we have quite a high level of penetration when it comes to internet penetration. The UAE, for example, is almost at 90%. So if we take mobiles, obviously 100% penetration everywhere, but that's not the interesting story. The interesting story is how smartphone penetration is growing in the region. So if we take an average from the Middle East and North Africa, we're at 10% only. But if we take the GCC, we're at 50% plus. If we take the UAE as an example, it's the number one smartphone market in the world. We're at 74%. And Saudi Arabia is the third biggest market in the world at 73% penetration of smartphones. So yes, again, when we talked a bit earlier, I think one of the key challenges for the brand is going to be how do I manage to communicate to my consumers through mobile and through a landscape format. Landscape format is going to be the next big thing, in my point of view, because that's one of the key challenges. For creative agencies, it's much better to have a portrait format, and double-page spread is going to be fantastic to look at. But the reality is, most of our devices are portrait format. So this is going to be the next challenge for brands as well as us advertisers.
Let me take that, actually, if I may interrupt it, to Nour, because Nour, you're handling the digital operations at Sayidaty. The point that Eric raised, how are you facing this challenge? How are you providing, given with the numbers that Eric just told us about mobile penetration, how do you provide for somebody who's accessing Sayidaty on his mobile or her mobile?
Well, too many questions.
You can answer. You can choose any one of them.
Just pick one.
You're the only lady on the panel, so we're going to be nice. So you choose whatever question you want.
I just want to confirm what Eric said. It's totally correct. The mobile penetration is huge. With Sayidaty, the percentages are even higher. And the percentage is growing. It's not like it's 3 months, 6 months. Every month there is a different number. There's an increase of mobile penetration, especially in KSA. Now, I know that Eric has a very good source that I learned about when it comes to statistics, but when it comes to KSA and UAE, it's only growing, and it's not going any less, which means that all our focus is going mobile. You know that our team in development operation, we work on mobile first. Whenever we have a new development, whenever we have a new page, whenever we have a new idea, the first thing they're used to now, and it's only been 3 months since we're using this method, is that we need to work on mobile when it comes to digital. Mobile first, then think of desktop interface, because it's 90% in KSA. 90%. This is the latest measure. 90% are using their mobile. They're accessing Sayidaty content from mobile. Because there are many reasons why it's 90%. It could be it could be had a big internet package. There's the internet penetration also grows when it comes to more mobile penetration, more internet penetration. Yeah. So I just agree with Eric. How do we handle it? We changed all our operation. We modified it in order to accommodate mobile. We embrace mobile. We try to think of new ways to advertise. We try to think of, look at, US statistics, Europe, what are they doing in order to have more mobile advertising opportunities. We try to track people on mobile differently. We have different design for mobile. And we're still growing. It's not like we're perfect, even
Sorry,
with all this.
If I'm exceeding my questions quota, if you don't mind, can you give us an example, like a case study of a brand you worked with that went on mobile and it was successful? We fully understand what the points you've raised, and you're kind of well advised to given the numbers you've mentioned, to start thinking mobile first. But has there been a success story, for example, that you can share with us recently, or is it something that's still in the pipeline?
I would only give one example. We had a special operation for one of our clients, Mubadala, a microsite. What we did is that microsite, it was all about lifestyle. We made sure that the mobile penetration, mobile interface, and the content is fully optimized for mobile. So they had a new package for SMS. The SMS packages, not SMS, SMS shots. They wanted to get more people SMS. So what we did is that our content on the mobile interface, it allowed people to actually register their mobile number to Mubadala, to Mubadala activation campaign. It was a very successful one because we were able to use those mobile users in order to meet a client's objective, which is, reaching the right people, reaching a specific message to the right people.
Right. Khaled, let me ask you, we've touched about this briefly earlier, but kind of a platform like what Nour is explaining something, would it be something that appeals to you in PNG? Would you be willing to go through a non-conventional approach? Or one of the kind of stereotypes about PNG is that the decision is not really yours. The decision is made in Europe, and then kind of local arms of PNG just implement international briefs. Is this true, relatively true, or not?
So let me start with that. Basically, how it works is that we get an overall guideline for all the markets. We look at them, and then we adapt to make sure that they are relevant for the region. So if there's anything that is not relevant for the region, we change it. And most of the time, like 70% of the time, we change these guidelines to basically what fits the region. As previously the panelist as well mentioned, we have amazing numbers, shocking numbers that nowhere ever in the world have, mostly on TV and digital. Yesterday I was with the Facebook guys. Video on Facebook is 2x, so 2 times what is in the globe. So video views on Facebook in the Middle East is 2 times. This is super big, so it's double. As well, you were saying UAE is 90% penetration. Qatar is 96, is the second highest in the world in terms of internet penetration. So all the markets in the Middle East and the GCC region have very high, strong data that we need to adapt to. We cannot have an overall guideline coming from somewhere abroad that works for all. We take what works, we adapt what works in the region, and we focus on that. As well as shocking numbers that I will never forget, Saudi has the #1 views on YouTube in the world. Yeah. Instagram has the highest users in Kuwait. Twitter has the highest penetration in Saudi. Like, the numbers are amazing that no one ever in the other parts of the region of the world have the same. So we need to see these data, be always equipped, always follow what's happening in innovation and technology, and get as much as data and insights as possible, and create a story.
Robert, since I'm not allowed to pick on Nour, I'm going to pick on you. So we've been hearing all the numbers.
Yes.
Everybody's saying digital is growing, digital is growing, digital is growing.
Yep.
Yet the first thing you said, print is not dying.
Yes.
So I'm going to go back to that question. So if print is not dead already now, do you see it happening in the next 5 or 10 years?
No, I don't see it dying at all. I think one key point, and that's kind of a key theme, is what we're in right now is a very interesting period because it's the evolution. You know, we're every year, almost every period, we're testing. Something works, something doesn't work. There's no golden rule, unfortunately. You know, what worked 2-3 years ago is not working now. The technology's evolved. We need to evolve. So I think it's exciting because at the same time, it's the younger generation that I'm going to end up working for because they're going to be able to lead the market. So there will still be a space for print. The challenge does remain with how do we understand these numbers and figures, yet how do we, how quick are we to turn these around and provide the solutions? And the challenge for print is how then do you redefine that experience? How do you, it's not as, and I see it everywhere. And I mean, when I launched my magazines in Scandinavia, it was the one challenge that we faced. How do you take a large-scale format print on a magazine? And it's not a copy and paste. And I see it time and time again in this market. Yeah. Same content, same look, online. Then why would you want to go online? There's nothing more beautiful than smelling print. I love print, right? And if I love print, I'm going to buy a magazine.
I don't usually pick up a newspaper to smell it, but...
well, you don't love magazines, but I mean, there's something about, if you're really into print as I am, there's something about print that you'll understand. There's nothing better than seeing that first, DPS with your brand in big letters, right?
You know what? I'm convinced. I'm going to join the revolution. I'm going to join you guys. And I'm going to make an outrageous claim now. I'm going to say, Eric, online is not killing print. Print is killing print. So what would you say, looking at the kind of title launches? We've seen Cosmopolitan relaunched, we've seen Stylist, we've seen a number of titles. In fact, in the region at least, there are more magazines, more titles being launched. Now, would it be fair to argue that the problem isn't really online cannibalizing the kind of ad revenues or the readership from print, but in fact, when you have too many luxury titles targeting the same niche, this is not good for the kind of advertising, and it's not good for circulation. Do we sort of have an argument there? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you would like to enlighten us a bit?
Print is killing print for maybe some other reasons than just the creation of new titles. I think I talked about it. Relevance in print is very important. So some of those publications will have to repurpose their content to stay relevant to their consumers. So they will retain their readership. If we take other parts of the world, Monocle, for example, in the US is doing great. And it's a book-type magazine. It's a coffee table almost type magazines. And it's doing fantastic. You have the New York Times Sunday edition is still growing in terms of circulation because it's leisure time spent on quality content. So what, in my point of view, in the region will happen is those who are not able to repurpose themselves will probably die. What will happen also is that new franchises or even existing international franchises will flourish in the region. Why? Because at the end of the day, we are seeing some examples. Mauger, in 2012, has launched its magazine. It's been doing extremely well for the fashion industry. We're looking at Canvas, who launched Sorbet, and Sorbet is not only a success in the region, but it's becoming a success outside our region, although it's a creation from the GCC. The big players, Condé Nast, has introduced 2 of their titles to ITP, or APP to be exact. So Condé Nast Travel, Architectural Digest are coming into the region. We will probably see Vogue coming next year at some point in time. I don't know if anyone from APP or ITP is around. Don't quote me on this, but this is something that will probably happen. So one of the key elements for print to survive in the or digital age will be to also reconsider the way they measure themselves. This is a very, very important element. Today, the only 2 things that we present to clients is reach and circulation. I bet you anything, circulations on the top newspapers has not changed for the past 10 years. It's the same circulation levels. However, the reach figures are going down. So if we look at magazines, the reach for the past 6 years has gone down by 26%. If we take the newspapers, the reach has gone down by 15%. In weeklies, by 9%. So the readership is eroding to the benefits, probably, of digital. And because digital is an easier access to information. So indeed, yes, I think print will kill print if it's not able to repurpose its content. Repurpose is the way it measures itself, and give ammunition to clients to be able to say, okay, I do understand the role and contribution print has had with any other media that I've been using.
Yeah. Do you agree?
I agree, but I think there's 2 big points, and I've been on all sides of the fence that I would like to address. And I think there's 2 pink elephants in this room. The first is numbers. I think there's an overinflation of numbers, and we all know that. It's no secret here.
In print or in online?
Print or
In print.
In print.
Yeah, in digital too.
Whereas in digital too, but digital is a little bit more measured. And at the same time, I honestly feel, and there's a lot of ways you can cut the cake and look at it and say, well, if you look at GDP versus the number of print titles, it's fine. I think this market is saturated. There's too many titles on this market for the number of people. And actually, I think this print versus print is a good evolution because it's going to kill a lot of the magazines that can't keep up. And then we'll have qualitative content and qualitative magazines that people really do want to read. And it's not just a copy-paste of a syndicated title from Europe.
Khaled?
I agree with what he's saying. I think quality and content are the most important thing. Like with the top magazines that are relevant for people, that are circulated with the reach there, the circulation might increase by time because people would want to find quality content to read. They want to find stories that they didn't find online. So this is where the challenge goes back to the print magazines or the media on how to reposition the magazines to an angle that you cannot find on print online. And another way, which is very interesting, on how to connect both digital and print on print. So having a question to answer a competition, so you can send or tweet from the magazine. So that link is very important as well, which helps both mediums because you cannot go alone. You need to have another supporting digital. We know that digital is there and digital is going to stay. So instead of fighting digital, I think complementing it and having a very creative way of connecting both together is very vital and is very important.
Nour, any kind of advice or any strategies that you use to connect what goes on in your digital operation with what goes on print, like Khaled was saying?
Well, I would like you to ask them if they did anything that on print and online that has actually been measured and that has reached this concept. But I agree, there is nothing not to disagree with. It's very challenging, you know. For us as Sayidaty, we try to not to put all content, especially exclusive stories. We try to make sure that they are on the magazine first. Specific pictures, specific images, specific interviews, exclusive breaking news. We don't publish them online. And we have this strategy that we try to, daily basis, that we don't duplicate the content. And the content of the magazine has to be of a special kind. And even if you duplicate, it's after 1 week or 2 weeks from the magazine being published. This is one of the ways that we do, is to make sure that the magazine content is not the same as online.
Well, I have to say, since you're all in agreement, I raised the white flag, despite my desperate attempts to get you to fight. So I'm going to take the question to the audience. Could somebody please tell me that print is going to die? How many people here think print is going to die eventually? At least one person. Oh, thank you very much. There's one person. You get to speak as much as you want. Could you please, but please introduce yourself first. Yeah.
Very short question. We all hear data from all over the world that print has been declining over the past 10 years drastically, and digital going up, well, in terms of readership and in terms of penetration of digital. Why here would it be any different? And we've been seeing the past few years print declining and digital going up. So, despite all you've been saying, I would like to hear why print would not be dying, except for some niche markets, some niche publications who know what to do. What is happening and why wouldn't it die, as has happened everywhere else?
You should be sitting with us here in the panel.
Shall I take the
Would you
question?
like to direct it to somebody, or shall I give it to Eric first?
I'll take the question at the beginning, so maybe it's as a thought starter. Some magazines will be suffering more than others, and some newspapers will be definitely suffering the digitalization. I was talking earlier with one of my clients, and we seem to be all in agreement that gossip magazines will probably disappear, because you get all that information handy. At the second someone gets out of the elevator, has done something, you know about it tomorrow. So what's the purpose of having gossip magazines, except during summer? Maybe you'll get a summer edition where you'll get the best offs of the year that you can take for summer. Newspaper as well, I mean, they will struggle. And daily news, by the time you get your newspaper in the morning, you've already had news feeds on your mobile, and you had already first-hand information. Now, obviously, you don't get all the content, but you will get the content. So this probably, for the dailies, it will be a hard battle to fight moving forward. Now, on your point of will the media disappear or not? I mean, TV was launched, yeah? Print is still around, and people still go to cinema. TV has not killed any of these media. It has repurposed each of them, and the mix has been growing for clients. And because end users have been going to movies, and we know when to touch them, and we know when to touch someone on TV and in magazines. With digital, it's going to be the same thing. I don't think digital is there to kill another media. It's there to serve its purpose to a given target audience with a specific content. As long as we keep this in mind, then I think media, and in general, and print included, should not be dying of a certain death.
Can I just add?
please.
I think as well, my frustration is it's not going to die. I think the key word, it's got to be reborn. It's an evolution we're going through. So definitely there's a lot of titles that are going to die off. And we can see, though, there's a lot of niche titles that are doing better than ever before. You know, a lot of these small titles coming from small micro areas with a story to tell, with people to reach. They're surviving.
Right, I'm liking the biblical terms, the die, reborn, etc. So let me just do this. I'm going to take questions. Just kind of try to make a point in the making. How many of the audience here? I can see a predominant female audience, which is a good thing for this question. So if you can raise your hand, if you've seen a luxury brand, let's say Louis Vuitton, in a magazine recently. How many people? Okay. How many of you have seen a Louis Vuitton ad online anywhere? Okay. So still most of you print.
I
Khaled?
raised my hand. by the way.
Well, you're not one of the audience. You already agreed. We're trying to get people who disagree. Nour, stop bullying me. So, Khaled.
Same question?
No. What can you tell of this kind of instant poll, which we would have done at P&G, would have cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars? I'm giving it to you for free now. So, most people still recall luxury exposure through traditional media, not online. Yet you're saying you sometimes go for online. What more evidence do you want?
What's very important is I want to know each one of you, your names and what do you do. I think most of you work in media, and most of you monitor media every day, and you look into magazines. So this audience, I would want to know more details of this audience. What do they do? What do they live? Before answering you. Because I think most of them are coming from media publications, print magazines that they work on, or online, but in the same house of the magazine. And that's why you go through these titles. But at the same time, I still believe, I said it from the beginning, there's a niche group that still uses print and reads print and looks into print every day, because these people will not change. If you have been using something for 20 years, you still want to use the same thing. You still want to view, have the same motion, smell it maybe, as you said. So
Some of them smell nice.
Can I just say,
Yes,
you
please,
forgot to
Robert.
ask one
Please.
question on those questions. How many of you actually felt engaged with the brand on the digital landscape versus on the print landscape? Because that level of engagement, that's key, that's gold. And that's what you can do on digital. You can extend that campaign ad. You can tell another story that you can't tell on print.
That's the challenge, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, people don't read the magazine every day, but they go online every day. I'm not saying that, no, we buy magazines. And by the way, on the pool, yes, they still hold the magazines, I agree. And the salon, the hair salons on weekly basis on the plane. So there are certain areas where the magazine cannot, on the couch, really, holding the mobile on the couch all the time, it's really annoying. You do it for different purposes.
And one important thing as well, battery life. Like my mobile as well. It dies. I charge it 2 times a day. I sometimes think smartly, like, okay, I can read this maybe on print. I'll read it print. I'll use my mobile for something else. So this is as well a medium to target, probably. And the creative idea, maybe you can take that. Have a solar
my
panel
kid opens
charger
the magazine.
on the magazine
I
itself.
think we've collectively succeeded in engaging the audience. I see so many hands risen, so
Let me just underline one thing, because that's going to be an interesting point of discussion. I think we're not touching upon this. For digital in particular, we have a very short attention span from consumers. So creative content and creativity is key, is super key. So when you come and you have developed campaigns, which are generally centrally led campaigns, and they find little relevance to our audience in the region, then this is one of the key concerns that some of the local brands have, because Central develop a great campaign, relevance to the Middle East becomes a problem. Hence, you find our percentage to overall advertising at between 8 to 12% is basically what digital represent in your media mix. But in fact, a lot of the campaigns that you planned have to be dropped off because of relevance, because of censorship. Let's not forget, censorship is a key issue. And we have to deal with this, specifically when it comes to perfumes and cosmetics, which we have, in general, concepts that are very edgy. So it's quite a challenge for the brands to try to exist on the digital sphere with those limitations. The other element is you need Arabic content. You need relevant Arabic content. I am not sure there is a lot of brands that are in the luxury category that have Arab websites that are ready, that have Arabic contents on social that is relevant to their consumers. So the upstream work needs to be done to reap the fruit of what's happening downstream, which is
I think Arabic content is a very good point. We'll get back to it. I need to take 3 questions from the lady. One question each. The lady, please, you raise your hand.
I think one
viewing.
My generation, they prefer to watch video bloggers. They don't use the iPhone to type their messages. They are dictating them. So I think there's a fundamental change in behavior, how to consume information that will affect print eventually.
Right. Sorry. The second question, please.
Yes, the way that I see it is that digital is more going towards mass and print will be niche. And the reason that I'm saying this is because I am an online user and I'm on my phone all the time. And I do get updates and news on my phone when I'm driving, when I'm working. I don't necessarily take the time to read or look at it, but I notice it and I see it. But when I go and purchase a magazine, I purchase it to read it and I go through it. And I actually keep it if it's interesting. So the way that I see it, I don't know if anyone agrees, online is very mass, temporary, but print is definitely niche and luxury.
Right. We noted that point. We have one more question from the back. Yes.
So we're in the era of data industry. How can I convince my client the return on investment they're putting on print versus digital? On digital, we all know we are being to measure it more and more. Be as simple as clicks, CTRs, impressions, but on print, it's reach and circulation. How do I get the confirmation who's getting this magazine, who's buying it, and
I can
really
answer
my
that.
target audience or not?
Okay. So we have these 3 questions. I'm going to take some more, but allow me to distribute the questions. Eric, the last
Yes.
question is for you. Robert,
Sure.
number 2, exactly. And the first question about actually YouTube. Was it you, Eric, who told me YouTube is the second most largest channel?
Yeah, if we put things in perspective, it's the 3rd biggest channel in the Middle East.
Okay. So that question is for you, Khaled. So who wants to start, Eric?
On the measurement aspect, I don't think there is a lot of convincing to do for clients on looking at the measurability of digital and the potential it has. I think, again, let's not forget the region is just at the beginning of what it can do on digital and digital content for luxury brands in particular. Don't mistake me. We are in a luxury forum. So I'm keeping the conversation and the debate to the luxury category. And a few years back, we didn't have some of those websites available for brands to start really investing into digital. So this is nascent. So brands are discovering as they go along with the sheer size and volume that digital can provide them in terms of their audiences. So I don't think there is any convincing to be done at that level.
Nour, you get to comment on all of them.
No, I only want to comment on this
Whatever you want.
There are a few ways that I would like to propose. Some of them are technical and depends on the campaign itself. But actually, if you have a campaign where you can have print and digital together, the amount of ways that you can measure that is enormous. There are many techniques where you can put in the ad a way where you can measure this person who's reading the ad to go online and do all sorts of stuff. Now, all sorts of stuff can be customized based on campaign and objectives. You can actually, when you have this integrated magazine plus online, you can have this data and you can build on it campaign after campaign, advertiser after advertiser. Let's take Sayidaty, for example. You have like 10 advertisers. Every advertiser have a specific campaign. You need to collect this data with every advertiser in order to collect this learning experience where who's reading Sayidaty based on different campaigns that you do and ask people to go online to do the things that you want them to do. I don't know if I was clear or not, but with every campaign, you can do things that you can collect data about the readers of this magazine if you integrate it online.
I think you were very clear,
yeah.
Nour, and we'll leave an opportunity for follow-up questions. Khaled, the question about video?
I think video is very important. And all gets back to the story. So the story, if you can put it on video, then it works. If you put it on print, it works. And you need to find the balance on what news do you want to do on print or on video. Another point that people sometimes forget is that with YouTube, for example, I can target your interest, what you follow. Where did you go what did you follow the past week? And yesterday I was as well thinking about it. I can now, any one of you that is on social media, I can know where did you go yesterday, which is the last show that you attended, which brand that you followed or you liked or you went to the event, and I can target you easily at one spot, and I can choose my niche audience from that target information and insights I'm getting easily at 1 second, and I can even have a very niche target that I want who attended Arab Luxury World today. I want to target them all with my ad that is on social media or on Facebook or on YouTube. So video is very important as well, and YouTube are doing a very good job in this region and overall. And we see the data, you see the numbers, you see how viral one video goes live, and it sometimes goes viral in 1 second. And this is another question that I want to ask the media people here, is that if I have news and I want to direct and have it out, the magazines, for example, need 2 weeks or 3 to send them the data, to send them the press release, and then have it. You're saying that you would be the first, you have exclusive data, but not most of the time. Many times online will steal that data, post it, and when the consumer comes to your magazine, it's old news already. So magazines need to adapt, find new ways, faster ways to start having exclusive, I would say, data to differentiate a little bit from online.
Good. Robert, the notion or the kind of idea that print is going to be specialized and online is going to be for the masses.
Yes.
Agree or disagree?
Yes and no. First part, absolutely. Print will become niche. And I think that's, we all agree, it's an experience, it's the smell. The second part, that digital is mass, it's only mass because there are very little brands who have been able to understand how do you transcend, and we're talking luxury as well, huh? So how do you actually transcend luxury values on a digital platform and experience? That's the question mark. And I've seen very few brands who can do that because there's a paradox between mass and luxury. And if you add that to the equation, do we then say, is luxury mass or is luxury niche? So
Right.
I've yet to see quality niche digital platforms that communicate to that audience and get results.
I want to go back to the Arabic content point, but I want to give opportunities to people who didn't ask. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Ola. I'm editor-in-chief of an online magazine in ITP. I think there is a point that we are missing, which is now we're still living in a generation where people used to read books. But in the next 20 years, those people are going to be kind of extinct.
Yes?
They're already extinct in the Arab world.
And the majority of content consumers are going to be the new millennials who are already dictating the way we publish and consume content. Another very important aspect is the digital penetration for online and mobile, because here the region is saturated, but there are regions that don't have connectivity, they don't have electricity still, they don't have internet. So I think print in these regions will continue to grow, but in a region such as the GCC, online is going to be the most important platform. My question is for Eric, and I would like to ask you, when you see now the percentage of advertising, is it with luxury brands, is it going more towards digital than print? Are these companies allocating more budget for online versus print? And how do you see this trend? How did it change in the past 10 years?
I don't have a 10 years span, but I can give you more or less what's happening for the past few years. Digital is definitely growing at double digits across the world. Yeah, we're talking about 20% plus. In North America is at 18%. In Europe it's at 23%. If we take the Middle East, we're at 23-24% growth, compounded growth year on year, so which is huge. Now, if we take the luxury industry, we're at the same trends, but we're coming from a much lower base. So indeed, we've been talking, and some of the topics we're saying, yeah, the luxury industry spends between 3 to 4% of its, or 5% of its advertising dollars behind digital. In my point of view, it's higher. Now, when we look at pure digital ad spends, which is display ad spends, it would probably, especially when it comes to the watches business, the fragrance and cosmetics business, the jewelry business, is much higher. Would be probably between 8 to 15%, depending on the brands that would be investing behind digital. And this is growing year on year. Now, for fashion brands, that doesn't mean they're not doing anything on digital, yeah, but they use different means of exploiting digital. We don't see this as pure advertising, but their social strategies, what they do when they have fashion weeks, how do they develop their relationship and engage consumers through influencers, through bloggers, through specific platforms that drives that connection between the brands and its consumers is huge. So obviously it's growing. And print is the first media that is being hit by it. Newspapers are down everywhere across the world, and the magazines are down everywhere across the world. But again, what the team is and the panelists are saying here is generalist publications will have no purpose, because at the end of the day, it doesn't serve a specific interest to me as a consumer. So in the future, they will probably have difficulties to sustain their businesses. But for the rest, I think it would be a good way of repurposing.
We have time, because we want to go through kind of closing statements as well. We have time for one more question, if there's anybody who wants to ask. Yes, please. There's no microphone. We'll have to do our best.
The question is basically for Nour, because Sayidaty is an example of the publication that has different channels. It's Facebook account, it's Sayidaty.net, and plus the print. Is it the same person that follows on Facebook, reads a certain article, then goes online and goes to the magazine to purchase the print, or these are three different people? Because you can't be like a fan on every single channel.
It's a very good point. Is it the same user, Nour, or different?
No, it can be the same user online. So Facebook on, well, the answer, it depends. If you're talking about social media versus Sayidaty.net, they can be, they can be together, okay? But when it comes to the magazine, the percentage of people that can go to the magazine and not go online is more, if you know what I mean. I mean, like, I can go to the magazine and read the magazine and leave it and then go back to it and finish it within a period of 1 week. While online, I can go to Facebook and then go to Sayidaty.net and then go to Instagram at the same period of time. So the measurement, if the reader of the magazine is online, we try to do certain activations where to know how are they online. Now, let's say that there are 100 people reading the magazine, only 10% actually went online, and that if you give a very huge, big incentive to do something online. I hope I answered your question.
There was a hand on this side. Was there anybody who wanted to ask a question? There it is. Can you kindly stand up and introduce yourself, please?
I just want to take a little bit of a different approach. Back in the day when radio was the main media and then TV was introduced, it was assumed that with the introduction of TV, that radio would actually not exist anymore. Can this also be applied to the digital versus the print? Saying that it would be kind of very limited to say that one will delete the other rather than work cohesively.
I think we've been discussing the same point recently, but the thing is, maybe we can build on that question. So radio went to digital radio. So how are we going to see kind of, because we've all agreed that print is not going to die. We spoke about evolution. We spoke about working together. So Robert, for example, would you have a case study or a best practice about how a traditionally print title can work together with online to produce something that kind of does the trick for everybody?
I can only speak on personal experiences. When we launched VS magazine, it was the first large-scale format magazine coming from Scandinavia and hit the world. And we were very quick. We were a very small team, but we were very quick to evolve. So we realized most of our advertisers needed it to see in a multilingual platform. So by the second issue, we were coming out in Chinese, Russian, French. By the fourth issue, our advertiser wanting to see some sort of traffic to their site. So we actually then created a click-through site through our page, so it would actually drive traffic, which would then we could generate reports. It's there, it works, but that's the challenge, as I was saying before. And it's a constant evolution. Not one period of time is going to be perfect. In 6 months' time, you're going to have to rewrite the whole strategy again. And I think there was a point up here, it was raised, it was very interesting, about the new generation. And that's the generation I'm most scared about, because these kids, they didn't grow up with a magazine. They grew up flicking. So let's have this talk in 10 years' time and see where we're at.
Yeah, Generation A are the first ones to have caught up on Snapchat, and Snapchat is their reference. So we come from a generation of Facebookers, and we are appreciative of Instagram. But what the kids of 17 years old are looking at is Snapchat. What they're looking at now is Kik. I don't know if you heard of Kik, but Kik is the fastest growing social platform, also a video platform in the United States. And by the way, it's the fastest growing app in Saudi Arabia. So that's how fast it goes. So for those who wants to look at, it's K-E-E-K, if I'm not mistaken. So Kik is quite important.
I think we're all getting a kick out of this conversation. Nour. Different platforms for Sayidaty. Do you see one day the kind of print becoming the smallest part of your business, and perhaps Sayidaty Online, Sayidaty Apps?
We have this plan, to be honest, in 5 years of time. We have this vision. I mean, like, we try to, as much as we can, to to put expectations. Online has to take a certain percentage of the total revenue. In 2015, I'm not sure, but I know that every month the numbers are exceeding online. When it comes to advertising, online advertising, of course, it's growing. Now, versus print, it's very hard. It's not a monthly review. But what I know for a fact from our agency is that the percentage is growing. What do we see ourselves in 2018? We see a 50-50%, like 50% from online advertising and 50% from print.
It's a very, very ambitious plan. Good luck with that. Khaled?
It's now 25.
It's now 25%.
25 to 30%, yeah.
So nearly halfway there.
But it grew really rapidly, you know? It's like last year it was not the same. And this is only from March. We didn't count April, we didn't count May.
And is the advertising coming from Khaled?
I don't know, but I have to check.
Khaled, why aren't you advertising with me?
Why, Khaled?
Yeah,
Do you know where your ads are?
I'm trying to get you off my back, Nour. He's the one you should
Khaled,
be talking to.
are you putting any ads on Sayidaty?
Currently, we're not. Currently, we're not. So, as from a client side,
look at my face.
So from the client side, I'll tell you that our budget, we have one budget. We have a fixed budget. Our budget is not
I'm not
usually
selling
grow.
you, it's okay.
No problem. So we need to prioritize. And we need to prioritize. I'm not saying a magazine versus the other, but to be really speaking, this is what most of you are facing. Like, the client has a budget, and you need to convince him with what's the highest returns that you will get with that budget. How many people you reach? How many? Not people. I don't like the word mass people, but quality people that I want to target. How many am I targeting? How can I target them? And this is a big challenge now for all media agencies and print titles as well, and online advertisers, is that how will you convince us, how will you convince me with the best thing moving forward? I get emails every week from my agency on, okay, why don't we do this? Then, okay, give me more data. I started challenging them. And this is what's happening. Previously, clients used to blind spend on digital. when digital went up. Okay, digital, let's spend in digital. And they didn't know where they're spending. Now, I believe that they're more educated. They got the news that, okay, no, I might be targeting the wrong people, so give me more data, more insights. Who are these people? Compare this versus print. And most of the time, the agency are not getting back to me with a valid point to convince me to go for print versus digital, or that, and this is what's happening now. So I would want, if any one of you have a very valid point, that I would reach all the people, reach more people with the same budget that I have right now, I'm ready to go for it.
Fantastic. I think that's a very good answer, and it kind of opens the horizon for people who are pitching to know exactly exactly what
It's excellent. His answer is excellent because you need to measure. You need to know how much you're spending and how much you're getting out of that. And that's what you can do online versus print. And that's how we started our early discussion.
Absolutely. Maybe when, as Robert suggested, when we have this discussion in 10 years' time, maybe we'll have a completely different, maybe we'll try to convince people to now...
Maybe we will be dead.
No, definitely nobody's dead. Please, let's not use this term, the death word. I'm going to have nightmares tonight, Matrix kind of nightmares. I just want to go back to the point that you raised about people reading books. We published a story on Arabiya, English, in 2015. We called it The Sum of All Fears. And it was based on a study released by the Arab Thought Foundation, which revealed shocking information that the average Arab reads 6 pages of books a year. And that's a very, very sad statistic. So books, online, digital, print, whatever, let's just try to get people to read. And on that note, I would like to thank all our panelists. Thank you very much for a lovely discussion. Thank you, all of you. We tried our very best to have different points of view, but as you can see, the panel has unanimously told you about the strength of online. This is why you should go to alarabiya.net English, and this is why you should advertise at alarabiya.net English. Thank you very much.